The tears ended quickly. Understanding dawned. Her son. He had taken everything away. Ella had always believed her life was built on a family happiness as solid as granite, a house on a prestigious street, a well-kept garden, her beloved husband Mark, with whom she had endured every hardship hand in hand, and their son Levi, their pride, a fair-haired boy, and then a man with clear blue eyes. Mark's death came quietly and stealthily, like a thief stealing the brightest light from her universe. Cancer. The diagnosis sounded like a death sentence, not only for him, but for her as well. In recent months, she hadn't left his bedside, forgetting sleep or food, and Levi was busy. First with urgent projects at the office, then with some complex negotiations. He would arrive for 15 minutes, smelling of expensive perfume, and look at his fading father with a detached, almost scientific interest. When Mark died, Ella's world didn't just fade away, it crumbled to dust. She was like a shell, empty and fragile, and it was precisely in this vulnerability that her own son struck her so accurately. A week after the funeral, when guests had stopped coming to offer condolences, Levi arrived with a thick briefcase. He was dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit and spoke softly, almost tenderly. But his eyes were icy. "Mum, you're not yourself. You need to rest. Let me sort out all this boring paperwork. Dad wanted me to take over the business. You don't understand stocks and holdings." Ella, stunned by grief, nodded trustingly. He was her son, her flesh and blood. Who else but him would take care of her? She signed papers without reading them carefully. Powers of attorney, agreements, some translations. Her brain refused to comprehend legalese. She trusted him. A month passed. Levi's visits began to diminish. Then he came for the last time. His face was tense and cold. "Mum, things are tough. Father's investments turned out to be a failure. We had to sell almost everything to cover the debts. There's almost nothing left of the inheritance." Ella looked at him confused. "What do you mean, nothing? What about our house?" "The house is also mortgaged. It's only a matter of time before it sells." "But I've taken care of you," he said, as if he were doing her the greatest favour. "I have a small house, in the countryside, a very quiet and peaceful place. You need peace and quiet to recover. You can recover there." It wasn't a proposal. It was a death sentence. She tried to protest, to cry, to ask, but she ran into the stone wall of his indifference. He'd already made up his mind. 2 days later, a car came to pick her up. Not his luxury SUV, but a simple taxi. Levi said goodbye to her on the threshold of that very house she later learned had been sold, with a dry kiss on the cheek and an envelope containing a small sum of money for the first time. The road to a village called Dalnyaya Zavod stretched on for an eternity. The further the car drove from the city, the more Ella felt her past, her life, her identity being left behind, and she herself becoming a ghost. The house turned out to be old and rickety, with a stove and a well in the yard. For the first week, she didn't leave it. She sat on the creaky bed and looked out the dusty window at the endless fields and stunted forest. The silence oppressed her ears, accustomed to the din of the city. There were no Mark's paintings, no porcelain collection, no garden she loved. There was only dust, emptiness, and an all-consuming loneliness. The tears ended quickly. They were replaced by numbness, and then a bitter, poisonous understanding. He had taken everything, not just the money and the house. He had robbed her of the right to grieve, to remember, to a dignified old age next to her husband's grave. He had sent her to die alive, out of sight, like a tiresome toy. But one morning, going out for water, she saw an elderly neighbour, Agrippina Ivanovna, standing at the gate with a pot of fresh milk. "I see they've sent a new settler," she said without preamble. "Your son, you said, settled her. Well, you must be a thoughtful son, so his mother can live in the fresh air." In her eyes, Ella read not mockery, but a strange, bitter irony, understandable only here, at the edge of the world, and something within her trembled. Agrippina Ivanovna began coming every day. She helped light the stove, showed them the best places to pick berries, and brought a chicken so that at least there would be some kind of animal. Life in far backwater flowed according to its own laws. Slowly, arduously, but honestly. Ella learned to carry water, chop wood, and bake bread in the oven. Her hands, well groomed and delicate, became calloused. But for the first time in many months, she began to fall asleep without sleeping pills, to the lulling chirping of grasshoppers. She hadn't forgiven Levi. The wound he inflicted would never fully heal. But in this remote village, in this oblivion where he had exiled her, she found something else. Not wealth, not luxury, but the piercing, bitter truth of life, and the quiet, stern strength to accept it. He had taken from her everything he considered valuable. But he didn't know that the most precious thing was the will to live, which, like a weed, grows through even the thickest asphalt slabs of betrayal. And this weed was already sprouting its first, feeble but vibrant shoots in her soul.